What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the TCG Empire YouTube channel. Today we are going to be going over Tech Tuesday, and if you don't know what Tech Tuesday is, it's where we take the deck of the week and we talk about ways in which we can make it better, as well as some possible cards that you can play outside of the deck of the week in order to improve your matchup for it. Now, some of the cards that we're going to talk about first are cards that you can actually play outside of Lost Box, and this is to kind of improve your matchup for it. The first card that we have is Manaphy. We all know what Manaphy does. Wave Veil, prevent all damage done to your bench Pokemon by attacks. This means that you can stop things like Kyogre from being able to damage your bench. And also it means that you can stop them from possibly sniping with Greninja. The next card is Hawlucha, Flying Entry. You can put 2 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon. You can put 1 and 1 when you bench it. And this just makes math a little bit easier if you're trying to do things like KO a Comfey, for instance. Rather than them be at 70 HP each, they'll start with 60 HP each. And this works in the mirror match where you can use Sableye and KO 2 Comfeys. The next card, Radiant Greninja, good for draw power, but also is good for Moonlight Shuriken if you're trying to just hit 2 bench Pokemon. This means that you can do 90 damage to 2 of them, and you can KO a Comfey and a Sableye, or 2 Comfey, assuming that they don't have the Manaphy in play. The next card I want to talk about is Espeon VMAX. Now, Espeon VMAX has seen a bit of play here and there, but its Solar Revelation ability is really nice as it prevents all effects of attacks from your opponent's Pokemon done to your Pokemon that have any energy on it. So there's no energy requirement for the Solar Revelation to work, it's just any type of energy. So this means that if all of your Pokemon have energy attached to them, that means that when it comes down to it, the Sableye cannot do damage. Similar to how the Snorlax is, this just makes it to where all of your Pokemon cannot be affected. And this also works well with the next card that we'll talk about. I'll jump a little bit ahead, which is Lost City. Lost City makes it to where whenever a Pokemon is knocked out, you put it into the Lost Zone. Now this does seem counterintuitive when it comes to using it against Lost Box, as it does fuel their Lost Zone. But when you're pairing Lost City with the Espeon, Lost City allows you to get rid of their attackers that can otherwise be a problem. And the next card I want to talk about is Snorlax with the Unfazed Fat ability. It means that you can, just like Espeon, prevent all effects of attacks done from your opponent's Pokemon to it, so Sableye can't touch it, and the only thing that they can do is swing with Cramorant. And if you're similarly in prizes too, then they can't use Radiant Charizard. So very good ability. The next card being Path to the Peak. Path to the Peak is good just because it shuts off Greninja. It means that they can't do things like draw multiple energy per turn, and it also turns off some of the other attackers that they might play, such as Raikou, Drapion, a few other attackers that could work in Lost Box as a whole. But this is overall what you can run in order to improve your matchup when it comes to Lost Box. Some of the big cards being Espeon VMAX as well as Lost City. I'm currently working on a deck that I think will do well with it, so we'll have to see on Thursday for Trash Deck Thursday. But again, that is all of the cards that you can run, and now we will get into the cards that Lost Box can run in order to improve its matchups. Now, as for the cards that Lost Box can run in order to improve its matchup, it's really just the baseline attackers that all of the different forms of Lost Box play. So the first card we have is Radiant Charizard. This is Keen in the Sablezard deck. Radiant Charizard, it's just a very good attacker. Ultimately, your opponent's going to be taking one prize, usually a turn or every other turn, so this Combustion Blast paired with the Excited Heart ability makes it to where you can swing basically for 1 energy for 250 damage and do a ton of work. Now Zamazenta is another one. With the Lost Box engine having great access to Mirage Gate, it means that you can really run any energy you want and any attacker. And here, the Metal Shield isn't as relevant as it makes it to where you take 30 less damage. But the one that is relevant is Retaliate, as for 2 Steel Energy and a Colorless, if a Pokemon was knocked out on your last turn, you do 120 more damage. So you hit 220 damage, and you can actually one-shot quite a bit of things, especially with being able to hit things for weakness. The next card being Kyogre. We do see a lot of builds that run Kyogre. Very good card. Discard the top 5 cards of your deck, and then choose 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon, and it does 50 damage for each energy card that you discard in that way. So that means you can possibly do 250 damage if you play your cards right, and can actually make it to where when you discard the top 5 that there's only energy there. So very strong card. The next being Raikou V. This does help your Lugia matchup, and it also has the fleet-footed ability that we've seen in the past, where once during your turn, if it's in the active, you can draw a card. And then Lightning Rondo does 20 plus 20 for each benched Pokemon, so this does cap out at 220 damage. However, hitting weakness on a Lugia, or just hitting something that has 210 HP or 220, most of the time you're going to be able to KO. The next card being Dragonite. Most of the time this is paired with Raikou, as they both have the energy requirement of being lightning energy, but Dragon Gale does 250 damage, and you do 20 to each of your bench Pokemon. This math works out very well, as you can hit for 250 and potentially finish off something with Sableye. So the 250 isn't very relevant as far as one-shot potential, but it does set up beautiful math when it comes to being able to hit a ton of cards. The next card being Drapion. We all know what Drapion does. It's basically the Mew counter. Most decks do run this, but if you aren't in Lost Box, you might want to consider it, just because it greatly favors your Mew matchup, especially considering that Mew VMAX does have a high HP count, so you're not going to be able to one-shot or really two-shot without using the Drapion V. And with access to Mirage Gate, you can even swing with Drapion V if you have to in a matchup where there is no Single Strike, Rapid Strike, or Fusion Strike Pokemon in play. The next card, Galarian Zapdos. We did showcase this in last week's Trash Deck Thursday. Galarian Zapdos is good if you're going against an Arceus-based deck. You can potentially, just like Charizard, swing for 1 energy, and with that being the fighting energy, you can hit for the weakness of 340 damage. Overall, just really good. The whole basis of what Lost Box can play is due to cards like Mirage Gate and being able to accelerate energy. You have the ability to really cover all the grounds if you want to, and play whatever weakness-based Pokemon you want. So Raikou works for things like Lugia. You have Kyogre that does massive damage just in general. Radiant Charizard and Dragonite hit 250, which you can finish off with pings from Sableye. Galarian Zapdos hits weakness on things like Arceus V-Star. Drapion hits weakness on Mew VMAX, and so it's overall really good. The next card being Giratina. Giratina has seen more play when it's come to the Lost Box engine, but I'm going to throw it in here just simply because of how good it is. You can do Lost Impact for 280 damage, which fuels your Lost Zone for the situation in where you want to swing with Sableye next turn, and then Star Requiem works hand in hand with Sableye. Both of them require 10 in the Lost Zone, and so this means that if you have 10 or more cards in the Lost Zone, your opponent's active is just knocked out. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's just if there's 10, it's knocked out, which can be a good game closer because you can just instantly take a knockout. In a game where you use Drapion and KO a Mew for 3 prizes, you can also start Requiem for the last 3 and make the Mew matchup a lot easier. The next card being Hawlucha. As I mentioned before, Flying Entry is very good, and in the matchup for the mirror match, you can actually use Flying Entry to make it to where a double 60 ping on Comfey from Sableye will KO 2 Comfeys. So very good card, and it also serves some purpose in being able to add some extra math when it comes to being able to 2-shot something versus 3-shot. And the last card is actually a tech card. It's Fantina. Now this card states that you can only use it if you have 10 or more cards in the Lost Zone, and it states that during your opponent's next turn, all of your Pokemon take 120 less damage from attacks. Now this isn't as relevant, but it is nice because this means that if you put a Giratina out and you swing, you can play Fantina and actually take away 120 damage. So technically, in theory, it means that your deck can put a situation to where Giratina V-Star has technically 400 HP, and it's very tough to work with. And this actually does work well with cards like Hisuian Goodra, which I forgot to add, so let me pull this up right now. Let's search Goodra. And we'll just grab this one. Now, Hisuian Goodra, Rolling Iron, 200 damage. During your opponent's next turn, this Pokemon takes 80 less damage from attacks. Very, very strong card. And Moisture Star, as an ability, you can heal all damage from the Pokemon. So, very strong, especially when paired with something like Fantina. You can technically bulk yourself so much that you have over 450 HP for a one-shot potential. Now, the HP doesn't add up, but as far as attacks going through, your opponent has to attack for at least 470 damage if they want to KO a Hisuian Goodra. It's very tough to do, and especially when you can Moisture Star, it just works wonders. So overall, these are the cards that you can run in Lost Box to improve matchups, and the deck as a whole, it's very fun, it's very aggressive, it's very fast, it has so many different ways that it can be played. So look at the meta, see what you want, and go from there. But thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you do, smash that like button, subscribe, turn on post notifications, and I'll catch you guys in tomorrow's What to Buy Wednesday.